Hello, everybody, and happy Friday, and happy new moon in Aquarius. We are at another new moon tonight. The moon is going to turn new in about 6 hours, well, 5 hours and a bit, just before 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, 5:59 p.m. So today what I thought we should do is start looking a little bit at what a planning algorithm will look like. We've been doing a lot of releases recently, and so today what I want to work with you all and what I want to show you as part of my personal practice is setting a new intention and doing it in a programming way. So I usually do programming algorithms for new moons, and I will do a release algorithm for full moons. So every 2 weeks I oscillate back and forth. So you've seen a bunch of different releases from me so far, but we've never really talked about any programming compositions yet. So today what we're going to work on is a little bit of a sun. The idea with Aquarius is the sign of the zodiac that stands for progression, for innovation, for rebellion, for learning about what has been tested in the past, traditions of the past, learning from them and progressing through them. So the idea of Aquarius sounds like a water sign, but it isn't. It's actually an air sign, right? And it's the air sign, so it has to do with your logic. It has to do with your computing power of your brain. And the idea with Aquarius is always progression, always innovation, always pushing boundaries and pushing limits. So with the full moon in Leo, which was 2 weeks ago, we were talking about getting rid of all of those things that make us feel less than the full sun that we are. Leo is the sun, right? So it's the complementary opposite to Aquarius. And the idea 2 weeks ago was letting go of any doubt, letting go of any voices in your head that have been programmed for you throughout your life that tells you you are not good enough, you are less than, you are small, you are limited, whatever it may be. So with that release from 2 weeks ago with the full moon, we were letting go of all the doubts, right? Now, here's why doing programming algorithms and compositions is so important. Because when we do releases, it's kind of like we are de-weeding the garden of our mind, right? We're taking out those things which we don't want. But if you are an experienced gardener at all, you don't even need to be all that experienced. All you need to do is go outside and look at what happens when you've got weeds and you take the weed out and you leave it and you plant nothing in its place. That weed comes back. So if all we do is through these compositions let go of the things we don't want, but don't plant something in its place, then those negative feelings, those negative thoughts, those negative impressions on your subconscious are going to continue to come back. Okay? So the reason that planning compositions are so important is that now we start to plant onto our subconscious. With the releases, we're allowing for the subconscious to come through and tell us what the message is. With programming, we're doing the opposite. With our conscious mind, we are, with intention, programming our subconscious mind. Because your subconscious mind is essentially at the service of your conscious mind. It believes everything you tell it. Everything you tell it, everything you tell other people, and everything that other people tell you. Your subconscious mind is like a 4-year-old. It has no filter. Right? So when we do these practices of letting go of those programmings and those things in the subconscious that are weighing us down, what we need to do then is program positive messages into the subconscious. So today, what we're going to do is we're going to create a composition exactly around the same kind of subject. So instead of allowing for the subconscious to come through and tell us what it needs, what part of us needs love, what part of us needs attentions, what part of us needs acceptance, we're actually going to reverse this process. We're actually going to tell our subconscious now what we consciously want. Okay, so the idea today is to create a composition around shining as bright as we can, like the sun, and intentionally programming that into our subconscious mind. Okay, so this program or this composition today is going to be different than anything we've ever done before. So today, we're going to be using 2 of the 4 fundamental Neurographic shapes, geometries. We're going to be using the circle, which you're very comfortable and familiar with at this point. Every time we round, we're creating part of a circle. And the circle is this idea of wholeness, this idea of having no sharp edges, things being continuous, things being harmonious, things being pleasing and easy, okay, and whole and contained, right? These are all of the things that a circle does. Now, the second geometric shape that I'm going to introduce to you guys today is the triangle. So we're going to be making a bunch of triangles around the circle in order to create a sun. Okay? Now, as we go through the composition, I'm probably going to be talking more today than I usually do during the release process, because with the release process, I want you to be very, very aware of your internal processes and thoughts and emotions and all of that. Okay? Today, I want you to have the same awareness, but I actually want to give you a little bit more to chew on for your subconscious and for your conscious mind to chew on. So, with triangles in Neurographica and in Neurographic art, inspired by Neurographica, signifies change. And triangles are not geometric shapes that you want to work with kind of willy-nilly. They are very, very powerful. They have a lot of sharp edges, which we're going to round. We don't want sharp edges in our composition, and you'll see what I mean once we get into it. But triangles in general suggest change. A change in direction, a change in current, a change in... A triangle has one sharp edge or multiple sharp edges, but usually a thinner top, unless it's a isosceles triangle and it's all equilateral. Unless it's an equilateral triangle, you'll have a sharper point at one and then a base, right? So the way that I work with in my compositions, the direction that the triangle is pointing is going to have significance. As you know, for me, the left side of the page is the past, the right side of the page is the future. Okay, the upper parts of my page are positive frequencies of emotions. The lower boundaries of my page are the heavier, lower frequency emotions. So depending on what I want to change, I will change the orientations of these triangles. Today, that's not going to really matter because we're going to go around a circle and create these triangles in all different aspects. Now, having said that, if you do this composition with me, there's a couple of things that I need you to be ready for. There is a very good chance that with this composition, you will have vivid dreams, or you will have some kind of an emotional reaction to what we're about to do. If either one of these things occurs, please don't get scared and don't get discouraged. This is all part of the programming process. Okay? But setting this intention is going to be really, really important as we get going. Also remember, as with releases, but even more so with programming compositions, perfection is not the key. Because now you're going to follow a set of instructions that I'm about to give you. And a lot of the time, our ego will step in Your ego will start looking at what I'm doing, and it will say, well, what you're doing on the page doesn't look the same. So you're not doing it right, or you're not doing it proper. It's not about that. With this kind of neurographic art, it is not about the aesthetics of what you're doing. It is about the energetic involvement of your mind and your soul with this process. So it doesn't really matter what it looks like in the end. It only matters that you're present throughout the whole process and that you're not really judging yourself. And you're allowing for this journey to take place. Okay? So, with that, let's start getting into our work for today. It might take a little bit longer than our regular sessions. It might not. I don't know. We'll see how it goes. Sometimes my programming compositions take longer than releases. Sometimes my releases take forever because I've done multiples, or it's on a really large piece of paper, or I'm using very thin instruments. Either way. Okay, so the intention of what we're going to do today is we want to change any thoughts we have that limits us, and we want to expand our horizons beyond what we think is possible for us. Because what we think is possible, remember that our page is the pleroma. It is the field of all probabilities and possibilities. Majority of us limit ourselves a lot in terms of what we think is possible for us. And the idea with this composition is to break through that. And we're going to do this using the circle and using the 4 elements in magic: earth, water, wind, fire. And I'll tell you what each of these things signify. Okay? So if you're ready, let's get into it. Because this composition is going to look like the sun, I'm actually going to use like a orange kind of colored pen. You don't have to. You can always use your regular black pens. It's totally fine. Just remember that we are not going to mix colors right now. Okay, we're going to use one solid color for creating the composition, and then we're going to color it. And today, because it's the sun, we're going to color it in kind of a monochromatic scheme. So we're going to be using a lot of oranges and yellows and golden colors of the sun, because we really want this composition to shine like the sun that we are. This is your sun of self. Okay, but I like to call this composition Sun of Change, because there's also another composition called Sun of Self, where we define different things and it's a different process altogether. So if you're ready, I'm just going to switch my camera so you can see my page. My face is no longer of any value to you. Okay, if you're following along with me through this process, and if you have any questions, please don't hesitate to put them in the chat. I will answer your questions as best as I can. So, let's get started. The first thing we want to do today is we want to start with the circle that is the main part of the sun. Okay, it's the main aspect of the sun, and the main representative of who we are. Remember that I told you one of the points of the circle is to create containment. Okay, so the first thing we want to do is draw this circle that represents us in this moment as a whole individual, as a whole person. Okay, so decide energetically where you want this circle to be, and decide how big you want it to be. This is up to you. So don't necessarily copy what I'm doing. You can put it in the center of your page. It can be off-centered. It can be however you like. Just remember that you want to give yourself enough room around this circle to create the wings of change, which is all these triangles that we're going to draw around it, okay? So for me, I think I want it to be kind of in the center of my page. And as always, what I do first is get a feel for how big I want this circle to be and where I want it to be. And then once I've got that, once I have the feeling down pretty well. I put my pen down and I draw my circle. And then what I'm going to do, as always, is neurograph my circle. Okay, so when we neurograph a geometric shape, we're doing the same thing as we're doing with straight lines, but now we're doing it with it going around a shape. So what I'm not doing, I want to grab just an empty piece of paper just to show you. Okay, so if this is my shape, what I'm not doing is creating this kind of a rhythmic ribbon around it. Okay, this is not called neurographing your page. So when I'm neurographing a shape, the same way that I want this line to be unpredictable, it's the same idea. It's going to be unpredictable as to where it's going. But I'm just now going around a circle. Okay? So we don't want to repeat patterns that are familiar to us. We want to create unfamiliar patterns. Okay? Now, once I have my circle, what I'm going to do is I'm going to divide this in half twice. So I'm going to do it vertically first and then horizontally, as close to the middle as possible. Doesn't have to be perfect. Remember, perfection is not the key here. Once I've done that, I have my 4 quadrants, which represents the 4 elements in magic. In order for you to do anything, you need to have the 4 elements working together: air, fire, earth, water. Okay? So the earth element represents everything that is within our physical realm. It represents your health, your body, your physique, your finances, your home. The physical aspects of our being is usually portrayed through, it's always portrayed through the earth. The idea of the tangible things in life, your legacy in life, your career, your vocation, all of those things. The earth signs run around things like your values, your sense of progression with Virgo, your sense of legacy with Capricorn, and they are all very fertile and very industrious signs. So what we're doing with our earth element is we want to call in the things that physically manifest in our life, whether it be our physical body, whether it be our job, whether it be our money, whether it be the legacy, the generational legacy we're leaving behind. That's all the earth aspect of our being. So 1 quadrant on this circle is going to be your earth. So the pragmatic things in life, the practical things in life. The second thing you need is your mental abilities, the air function, the air element. The air element allows you to use your logic, allows you to learn from previous experiences, from previous mistakes, from watching other people, your ability to analytically look at things, your ability to understand and tell stories. These are all aspects of the air sign. So without our mental capacities, without our ability to look at how we learn things and how we move through things with our logic, we are not going to be able to manifest anything into our lives. Right? So it's part of your imagination. It's the practical part of your imagination. It is also the part of your being that actually puts a lot of limits on you. Right? So the earth element limits you in terms of like what is practical. The air element limits you or allows you to break your limits through how you rationalize the things that you do in your life. Remember, Aristotle once said that, famously has said that as human beings, we are by nature rational creatures. And if you are not rational, then you are not human. I beg to differ. I don't think we are rational creatures. I actually think we are rationalizing creatures. We do things that make us feel good. And then post facto, we come in and we put rationale behind it. That is your air aspect. That is your air sign. That is the air aspect of your being. Okay? The third element that you're going to need to create anything is fire. You have to be passionate about it. Because if not, then you're going to rely on willpower, which is part of your earth category. And if you don't sustain the earth, it goes away really, really quickly. So whatever it is that you're doing in life, you needed to create fire. Every time your synapses fire in your body, that is the fire element inside of you. As you're listening to my voice right now, there's fire being created in your nervous system. As you move your pen across this paper, you're creating fire, not just in your brain, but also through your entire body. It is moving your muscles. Your biological function is creating heat. Your cells staying alive is creating warmth and heat, and that is the element of fire. So long as we have fire within us, we are alive. So we need fire to create anything in life. And then the very last element is water, which is our emotions. If you are not emotionally attached to yourself and to your goals, it is very, very difficult for you to manifest anything in life. Your water feeds your passion. It creates the emotions. It creates the passion, and it creates those synapses firing. This is why sales most of the time focuses on your emotions, not your logic. If you're ever in a sales pitch, you know that you're dealing with people's emotions, not with their logic. You are telling them why they want this thing, not why they need it, and why it's a good investment, and why it's a good opportunity for them to part with their money. Our emotions actually play a massive role. Now, sometimes we have trauma when it comes to our emotions. This is why releases are so important, because it is the expression of the water element more than anything, and then a little bit of an introduction of the air element. So, within these quadrants of your whole self now, you have the 4 aspects. You have the 4 elements. You can decide which one is what. You can decide to label them if you want. You can decide not to label them. That is completely up to you. Okay? But as a whole individual, you are made up of earth in terms of your practicality, air in terms of your ability to cognize and think and learn things. You have emotions revolving around everything, and you also have the element of fire, which is what burns things and makes you alive and gives you heat and passion and the ability to move forward. Okay, so passion usually starts things, right? So Aries, for example, which is the cardinal fire, starts things all the time. But the problem with Aries is they don't have staying power, right? It's not like the fixed fire sign of Leo, which is like the sun. It is always shining. It is always burning. It is always creating more energy. Aries likes to create little fires everywhere and see which one catches. And whenever they come against resistance, they back off. Okay, because it's about fire starters. So your passions in life are going to get you started on things. It's your water element, your emotions, and your earth element, which is your practicality and pragmatism combined together, that gives you sustenance. Right? Your willpower is part of your earth element, but willpower alone will fade if there isn't emotional attachment to the result that we are creating. Okay? Now, the next thing we want to do is we want to divide these 4 quadrants into 3 segments, because every sign or every element has 3 different qualities. You've got a cardinal quality, which is the most pure form of that energy. You have got the mutable, which is the changing aspect of that energy. And then you have fixed, which is the most focused, long-term thinking aspect of that same energy. I don't want to go through the whole zodiac, but that's how we get the zodiac signs. We have the 4 elements and their 3 aspects. So that's all we want to represent. As a person, I don't know if you've ever looked at your natal chart, but when somebody says to you, what is your sign? We usually associate our sun sign with our zodiac. But the truth is, in your natal chart, you probably have all 12 elements, all 12 of the zodiac signs, at least majority of them. Okay? So what I want you to do is start creating. So in order to create this into, it would be easy if I just wanted to cut these in half. I would draw the diagonals, but that's not what I want to do. I want to divide these into 1/3. So that's what we're going to do. We're going to eye it. Again, perfection is not the goal here. The goal is not to make this perfectly equal and all that. That's not the point. The point is for you to graphically represent these kinds of energies that we find in our surroundings and in our universe. Once you have the first third, the second one is somewhat easy because you just cut that piece in half. The remainder you just divide into 2 sections. So this sun now represents you as a whole, and it also represents the 12 aspects of you and the 12 houses of astrology. You don't need to know any of that in order for this to work. You just want to know that this is the whole picture of you and not just a part. Not just your light aspects, not just the aspects of you that you like, that you want to show to the world, but also the parts of you that are in the shadow, the parts of you that are not being paid attention to, the parts of you that you want to subdue. Okay? So this circle represents the entirety of who you are. Now, within what is contained here is everything that you have been and everything that you have learned. And the idea for today's composition is for us to go beyond our limits and beyond our boundaries. So what we want to do is we want to create change in an outward direction. Whatever I am, whatever is contained within this is great. I'm grateful for it. I love it as it is. I accept it as a whole, as it is right now. But I would like for it to be bigger. I would like for me and you and for all of us to have the courage to take more space, to do more, to go beyond those parts of us that limit us, so that we can create our greatest potential, so that we can create the kind of life we want, not the kind of life that was programmed for us. Okay, so the first thing that I want to do is I want to extend each element. So I'm looking at the major quadrants first. And the first thing that I want to do is I want to start creating these triangles that jut out but attach to these first quadrants. And I'm making these smaller, fatter triangles because we're also going to create some pointy ones in a second. Okay, so what I like to do is kind of give myself a little dot, and then what I'm going to do is connect and then connect. And I'm going to do the same thing kind of here. Again, perfection is not the goal. They don't have to perfectly match up. Okay, these don't have to be perfect squares. If you do them perfectly, they will be, but the idea for me right now isn't to create squares, which is another one of the fundamental neurographic geometry. I just want to create these triangles that attach to my 4 elements. So the first thing I'm doing is, as a whole, I'm expanding these 4 elements outwards. I want these 4 elements to be limitless. I don't want it to be limited by the boundaries of who I am in this moment. I want it to have the potential to create much more than that. Okay? Now, the next thing I like to do is, I just don't want the elements to be the ones that are shining outwards. I want every one of these little sections as well. These little aspects of me. If you know anything about astrology, then this is going to make more sense to you. But even if you don't, I want every different person that I am, because we are not just one person and one personality. I want all of it to have the ability to shine through. So what I'm actually going to do is, I'm going to start creating these longer triangles, kind of jotting out. Don't worry if they're not all the same size. Don't worry if sometimes your tips don't meet. We are going to neurograph through all of this anyways, but we're just going to go around and create these points of expansion past where we are into who we can be, right? Again, we are expressing all of this on to the pleroma, onto the field of all probabilities and possibilities. Now you've got your sun. Okay? Now the first thing I want you to notice is how many sharp edges we have all of a sudden. Sharp edges in our mind creates conflict. Creates points of departure, points of like the blade of a knife, a point that cuts, opens. And that creates change. And that creates discomfort. And what we want to do is, we want to be comfortable. We want to continue to feel safe while learning to be uncomfortable. That's what this process is all about. So what I'm going to do is, I'm going to neurograph all of these shapes. Now, with the lines in the center, it's up to you whether or not you want to neurograph them or not. That is completely up to you. But even if you don't neurograph them, what we're going to end up doing is round the intersections between them. Okay? If you don't really want to see these lines in the center, once your composition is done and you've done the coloring, then don't neurograph them. But if you neurograph them, again, depending on the thickness of the pen that you're using, when we neurograph them using a really, really thin tip, we get these like bubbles forming. Okay? So, we have our main composition at this point. This is our personal expression. We want to have a more expanded version of ourselves. We want to expand who we are, our capabilities, our dreams, and whatever it is that we are capable of. But in order to do that, the first thing we need to do is we need to, number one, feel safe within ourselves in order to expand ourselves. And number two, we need to have a sense of harmony with all of these changes that we're bringing about. And there's quite a lot of them on this piece of paper. Okay? So the first thing we're going to do is we are going to spend some time rounding this composition with itself. While we round this, I'm going to give you guys quiet time to really think about and connect with everything that I just threw at you. If you have any questions, please put them in the chat. But in the meantime, what I want you to do is start rounding this object together and start really connecting to this idea that you are a multi-faceted, multi-angled sun, ready to shine out. Let's come into self-acceptance first. Let's come into personal peace first. And then we're going to draw some neurographic lines and round those. But first, we want to come to peace with the composition that we have made, with the wish we have made into the universe. Everybody good? Let's go. Let's enjoy the rounding process. Again, remember with neurographic art, we're always going to have a sense of tension, a semblance of tension, and we don't want to dissolve that tension. That tension is our growth. So if your mind starts racing, if you start having your ego speak to you, or parts of you start speaking up about why what you want is not possible and all of that, be observant of that, but do not engage. with those aspects of yourself. All we are doing right now is making the claim that we can be bigger and better than what we are, than what we were programmed to be. We can choose to be different. And it's going to be uncomfortable. It's going to alienate certain people, but it's also going to pull in other people into your life. So we want that tension, that pain. Pain is the greatest teacher we have in our life. The avoidance of pain is the greatest motivator in human psychology. So we learn the patterns that hurt us more than we learn about from things that give us pleasure. So we want to learn to be comfortable with that. Instead of running away, instead of being avoidant, we want to run towards those things that make us uncomfortable. Therein lies success. That's the journey of the fool to the genius, right? When you want to do something that's never been done before, most people will tell you you're crazy. It's never been done before. You can't do it. It's not doable. And then once you do it, everybody hails you as a genius of, oh my God, look. How did she, how did he, how did they do it? Now let's emulate them. Now let's copy them. We don't want to be copycats. We want to be original versions of who we are. That's why the universe, that's why the divine created us. There is no two copies of the same thing in the universe. The universe does not have redundancy. You are meant to be who you are. You're meant to shine the way you, only you, can shine. And this composition is a graphical representation of that, of the fact that you are a sun unto yourself, with your own solar system, with your own dependent planets that you keep in place and you sustain and you give gravity and life to. But you don't get to just shine in the service of others. You also get to shine because you are the sun. It is in your nature to shine. The innate abilities that the divine has given you is unique to you. It's not that if you don't do whatever it is that you were meant to do in this life, someone else will. Someone else cannot do it the way you can. You are meant to put your energy out there, unapologetically, wholly, completely, and without fear of judgment from others. This seems like slow, tedious work, but you're worth it. You are worth your own time and effort. You don't have to spend your whole life in the service of others. It is okay to invest your time and energy into yourself. It doesn't always have to be about other people. It's okay to be selfish. It's necessary to be selfish. Selfishness is part of our survival instinct. Selfish is not a four-letter word. In fact, as part of creating this composition, you're allowing yourself to be selfish. To put your needs on the table, on the list, alongside everybody else's. You know, we've created societies that care very, very little about the individual. We've created healthcare systems, especially in the West, that defines healthy as a person that can keep a 9-to-5. In fact, in Western medicine, all of the symptoms you may present with are considered normal on a bell curve unless and until they interfere with your job, with your 9-to-5. Eastern and holistic medicine isn't necessarily that way, although in competing with and being accepted by Western medicine, it has started to do some of the same things. But that just goes to show you that in society as a whole does not care about you as an individual. In fact, society as a whole will tell you, you are not a sun. I am. The society is the sun. I get to shine. You just get to be a hydrogen molecule on my surface. So in a society that doesn't care about the individual, it is important that the individual recognizes their own self-worth inherent to them, not because of what they can contribute to society, but for the simple miracle of it being a sentient living being. Our value is not in what we can give to other people and to society. Our value as human beings is in the fact that we are human beings. We get to experience this life as sentient beings that breathe, that feel, that have all of these emotions. So taking ownership of that. That's what we're doing through this composition. You know, especially as women, in many cultures, we are taught to be extremely selfless, to put everyone else before ourselves. And if we abandon ourselves, then we teach other people to do the same. So a lot of the times, women in societies feel like martyrs in their homes, like their wants and their desires and their life isn't of value unless it's in service of the men and others in their life. And especially as women, we need to take our power back. We need to take our shine back. We need to recognize that as human beings, we also have needs. And it is important that those needs are met. That does not make us selfish. That does not make us self-centered, egocentrical. That does not make us any of those things. It makes us human. Aquarius in astrology is considered to be the sign of the rebel, but I think that's misunderstood, because the main question for an Aquarian in life is, how long are you going to sacrifice yourself to please other people? And once they come to a place of putting themselves at least at the same level as those who they serve, they're considered rebels. But it's because Aquarii eventually come to a place in their lives that go, hey, I rather live my life for myself by my rules than in a way that pleases you. I don't care about your opinions and your judgments anymore. And so society that wants homogeny, that wants you to be a follower, that wants you to do what it is telling you to do, will label you as the rebel, because you're no longer willing to sacrifice yourself to please other people. please make sure as you're doing this process that you are hydrating. Have a cup of tea next to you, or some water, or hot water with lemon, whatever you like. Just make sure that you're hydrating through this process. It may look like it's nothing, but you're doing a lot of work. So the thicker your pen is, the quicker this process will go. But the thicker your pen is, the less detail you're going to be able to get and the less intersections you have. So it's always in life a give and take process. Do you want to spend more time with rounding, or do you just want to get it done? the more rounding we do, the more we work on the neuroplasticity in our brain, the more lasting the change we want to create is going to be. But that also requires for you to be present and uncomfortable for a longer period of time. Remember, in life, our ability to manifest anything, to create anything in our life, the ability to do that is directly related to and proportional to our ability to withstand the opposite. Right? So if I want to get stronger and be strong, then I have to have the ability to continually feel weak when I go to the gym and try new weights. Right? Or your ability to build generational wealth is directly and proportionally related to how much you can withstand the discomfort of living on a budget. How much can you forego instant gratification for the sake of something bigger and more lasting? So whatever it is we want in our life, or whatever it is we want to create, our ability to do so is determined by how much we can withstand and tolerate the absolute opposite of what we want. Right? If you want to, for example, be in a healthy relationship, or if you want to call in love in your life, it is proportional and related to how much you can feel at home by yourself, with yourself, within yourself, before you bring in someone else. Everything in itself contains its opposite. So if you want to create something, you have to have the ability to tolerate the opposite of what it is you want. But before you even get to tolerating the opposite, we need to know that we're worth it. We are worth our own effort, our own time, our own energy. Accept that first. Self-love. And I don't mean self-love in the way that narcissists go about it. That says my needs are the only ones that matter, my wants, my existence is the only one that matters. But a healthy love and respect for who you are, accepting yourself for who and what you are in this moment. Remember, love says, I take you as you are, not as I would want you to be. So if you love yourself, you accept yourself as you are in this moment, warts and all, flaws and all. And from there, you can co-create the life that you want with the universe. The first step, the most important step, is self-acceptance. You need to allow yourself to shine in this moment as you are, not as you would like yourself to be. Or better yet, as society would expect you to be. We're almost there. We're almost all rounded with the original composition. Okay. Once you finish rounding your composition, it will look like your version of this. Now, remember that we said this is our personal expression. We are saying that we want to expand beyond our own limits. Now, we are not expanding into a vacuum, right? We are expanding into society. And we want society to actually have a positive experience with that. We want the society to take ownership of what it is that we are putting out as well. So what we're going to do now is we're going to extend further. We're going to take all the tips of all of these triangles and we're going to give them neurographic lines that expand into the emptiness. So we're allowing ourselves to take space even beyond the limits that we just pushed. Sorry. Now visually, for us it may look like the page ends where these lines end, but in reality this goes on for perpetuity. So this expands, whether or not we're able to see them, this expands way beyond anything that we can imagine. The limits of this paper are not the limits of the universe. Okay? And neurographic lines don't have to be long and they don't have to go from one end of the page to the other. They can be very short and sweet. If you have empty spaces in between and you don't want to have them, then take your dividing lines and expand those as well. And then all that's left to do is round all the new lines you just drew. Because now what we're doing is we are combining, we're getting society to take ownership of this new person that we are stepping into, this more expanded, more rebellious person that society may not necessarily like. It may not be to the benefit of the people who have learned how to treat the smaller, more limited version of us. We're going to have to ask them for grace as well. They need to learn a new version of us, and that's going to be difficult for them as well. So by creating these lines, we're bringing in society at large, whether it be our immediate family, friends, co-workers, lovers, whatever it may be. And we're getting that transition to be smooth. We're bringing peace and harmony and ease and grace into this reintroduction of this newer version of us into society. It is not enough for us to express ourselves in a void, in a small container. We belong with the rest of society, and we want that. We need, as human beings, our psychology needs for us to be accepted. So that's what this second round of rounding is all about. Through the rounding process, we bind things together. So right now with this process, I'm binding society as a whole into my personal expression.
second set of rounding is just as important as the first.
Us declaring what we want is just as important as how it is received by everyone else. So we want to bring peace and harmony to all of these relationships, all the people that can be resources in this process of us getting to what it is that we want. So stay present. Also, this means you are not alone in everything that you want to achieve. You don't need to prove your worth by yourself. There are other people, there are other resources that will help you along the way, that will magnify your energy, and who will share your intentions. And by doing this rounding and by creating these lines, you're calling those people into your life, into your physical existence. You know, there's a poem in Farsi, in my mother tongue, that says, the more isolated, the more lonely you make yourself, the more isolated you will feel. The more you isolate yourself, the less society wants of you. So there's definitely a time and a place for cocooning and for going inwards, but eventually every single self-expression is an expression that goes into society, that goes into other people, that involves other people. And so what we want to do with drawing these lines and creating these compositions is to bring those people into our lives, the ones that are going to give us positive energy. And it's okay if some of those people are not in your environment right now. Just because they are not there now does not mean they don't exist or that they will never be.
If you put your energy out into the universe will return it back to you. Whatever we put out, remember that in life we don't attract to ourselves that which we want, we attract to ourselves that which we are. So with this composition,
we are literally graphically putting that out there. This is what we are. This is what we want to attract into ourselves by shining it out, by putting out the energy we want to receive. This is part of people pleasing as well, right? People pleasing behavior is not about being a doormat. In fact, the majority of people pleasers are the flip side of the narcissist coin. They are giving to others that which they want to receive. They are putting out the energy into the universe that they want to have themselves. That is the intention behind people pleasing. To put out into the universe that which you want to get yourself. Now, when you do that without having healthy boundaries, then you attract to yourself the people who will want to use your energy. But once we have healthy boundaries around that, then your vibe begets your tribe. The birds of a feather flock together. So we have to be it to receive it. Right? This is why they say in life, if you want anything badly enough, if you want respect, give it. If you want accolades, give it. If you want appreciation, give it. Because then you are the energy that you want to receive. Then the universe goes, your wish is my command. And the universe is your genie. The only thing is, it doesn't limit you to just 3 wishes. You have unlimited wishes because there's unlimited potential within the universe. But first we have to be it to receive it. It's not ask and you shall receive. It's be and you shall experience. It's not enough to just ask. You have to act as if. This is part of The Secret at this point, right? The movie The Secret is what, 20 some odd years old at this point? That's why act as if is so important in manifestation. Because it means you put out into the universe the energy that you want to receive back. The universe does not understand negatives. Your subconscious also does not understand negatives. In order for it to understand the negative, it must first create the positive. Let me demonstrate it for you with a very, very simple trick. It's not even a trick, but it's an experiment. If you're listening to me right now, I want you to do everything in your power not to imagine a purple airplane. What just happened? You immediately had a mental image of a purple airplane, even though I said don't do it. In order for your subconscious mind to negate something, it first has to create it. So the universe works the same way. The universe does not understand, I don't want. The universe looks at your energy, looks at what you're putting your energy and your life force behind, and it gives more of that, which is why we say things like, don't say, I don't want to be late. Again, the universe doesn't recognize the negative, doesn't recognize I don't want to be. It focuses on late. I'm going to get there late. That's the difference between saying, I don't want to get there late and I will be on time. I'm going to be on time. When you tell the universe, I'm going to be on time, once you leave the house, you hit nothing but green lights. When you tell the universe, I don't want to be late, you leave the house and all you hit is red lights. And then a traffic jam on the highway that no one was expecting. right? Because the universe is focusing on what you say and not on the negatives.
Because much like your subconscious, in order for it to negate something, it has to create it first. Right? If you keep saying, I don't want to be in debt, all you will experience is being in debt. Because the universe has to make you indebted first before it can negate it. Much like you had to imagine the purple airplane before erasing it from your mind. In terms of your body chemistry and in terms of energy, the two of them are the same. Right? Putting out negative and saying what you don't want and focusing on what you don't want, energetically they are the same. You're putting out energy into the universe. Except in our cultures, we have been taught to worry instead of daydream. When we play the what if game, we always play the worst case scenario. We don't think about what would it be like, what would it feel like if the best case scenario happened? What if it worked? We always think about the things we don't want. We worry rather than daydream, even though energetically speaking, they're the same. You're playing a what if game. Except you're playing what if with the things that you want to avoid and then putting it out into the universe.
So guess what? You're going to experience all the things you don't want. If you want to experience all of the things you do want, then that's what you need to communicate to the universe. And that is exactly what we're doing with this composition. I want to shine as brightly as I can, and I want for my light to be accepted by society instead of being rejected or being judged. So as the moon turns new,
We are setting positive intentions. We are being in a space of gratitude instead of being in a space of complaining. This is why having a gratitude practice is such an important part of manifesting that which you want in your life. We have to first acknowledge what we do have. Most of the time we focus on what it is we don't have and what we want, because there is a lack there. The more you focus on the lack, the more you experience the lack, the more real the lack becomes. Right? This is what they mean when they say we should look at our challenges as opportunities. See the positives, see what things become possible because of these challenges. These challenges mean you have to show up as a different version of you, which has never been before. And that's a beautiful thing. Complacency is the quickest way to death. Your body is evolving all the time. It is learning about itself. It is rebalancing the chemicals inside of its hormones inside of it. It is learning about new pathogens, new bacteria. Your immune system is constantly updating itself. Your circulatory system, your respiratory system is constantly reacting to your state of being, whether you're seated, whether you are walking, whether your body, your physical existence is always in non-complacency. It is always reacting and adapting and learning from its environment. And yet mentally, we are comfort-seeking creatures. We enjoy, we like the things that make us complacent. The minute you start to get a sense of safety and comfortability, not even safety, safety is critical, but the minute we become too comfortable with who we are and attached to that comfort, we stop progressing. And that's the beginning of the end. Look at today's day and age. Look at, the difference between millennials and zillennials and the way that millennials and Generation X. Look at how when one stops evolving, the other one takes off. Look at the way we are reacting to technology. I myself am an early millennial. We are the last generation that experienced anything analog. And yet I watch my 5-year-old nephew and the way that he interacts with technology and how matter-of-fact it is for him. And it makes me realize that I need to keep up with the technology that is going to be built for him, because then the moment I cannot interact with that technology, I'm useless in society. the future belongs to him, so I need to keep up with him. I can't say, oh, I know how to use my phone and I know how to use a computer well enough to be doing what I'm doing with you all right now, so that's good enough. It's okay. Doesn't matter what comes next. If I get comfortable where I'm at, and if I get comfortable with the things that I know and think that they're enough, I'm going to get left behind pretty quick. In a world that is moving forward at a very, very rapid rate, standing still is synonymous with being left behind. And comfort zones make us stop. They make us stop being brave. They make us stop being adventurous because we have something to lose. Yet, what we forget most of the time is that which we have to lose now, we created out of nothing. So even if we were to be taken back to the uncomfortable place of nothing, we can recreate it all. Nobody can take away your knowledge, your ability to do something, your expertise, your skills. They cannot take it away from you. And even if you were to start from the beginning, you are not starting from scratch, because the next time over, you have learned valuable lessons that will make it so much easier for you to not only replace what you had, but probably make it even better. We actually want to learn to feel safe outside of our comfort zone. If we conflate comfort and safety, we're doing ourselves a great disservice. This is why we procrastinate, because we are afraid of a task that we think we are not going to succeed at. So we stay in our comfort zone of I haven't attempted yet, so I could not possibly fail. And yet everything we've ever learned in the history of science, in all life of all mankind ever, has come through trying and failing and trying again and trying something different. Being the sun is not easy. Always shining, always having people dependent on you is not easy. The moon is probably a lot more comfortable than the sun. It has a cold surface at least. Its surface is not always flaring up, and it's just in reception and reflection of the light it receives. But then, the moon is completely dependent on the sun for any warmth it gets at all. So in life, would you rather be the sun and risk having a surface that's on fire and flaring up all the time? Or would you rather be the moon, completely at the mercy of another sun, of someone else who's able to stay out of their comfort zone and have the courage to burn? This is what it's like when we are in our victimhood. We become the moon. We give our power to someone else. You cannot be the hero and the victim of the story at the same time. By doing the composition we're doing today, we're saying, I'm not the victim. I have agency. I can take control. No matter what the price. Because then, at least,
when it's all over, like Frank Sinatra, I can say I did it my way. Maybe not the best way, maybe not the easiest way, maybe not the most painless way, but at least I did it my way.
And in most religions, that is what you owe God. The divine has given you these inherent talents for you to go and use them and maximize them and do good for humanity. We are all meant to be little suns. And yet society trains us to be moons. The choice is yours. Do you want to be the generator of light and warmth and life? Or do you want to be the receiver? Receiving is a lot easier than generating, that's for sure. Look at the ratio of planets to stars in our galaxies. There are a lot more creators than generators. But without stars that die and fuse atoms together, we would not have the elements that make up life. There would be nothing left to receive. And in fact, when a star dies, the solar system around it completely dissipates. It goes into complete chaos because it was completely dependent upon that star. And yet, once the star dies, it doesn't become nothing. It actually becomes something more powerful, something stronger underneath. You just don't see it anymore. They don't emanate life anymore, or light anymore. They don't emit light anymore, because their gravity is so strong that light cannot emit from it. So do you want to be the center of gravity? Or do you want to give your center of gravity to someone else to play with as they please? You have all the 4 elements you need to create. You have certain resources, certain talents, certain abilities, certain skills. Okay? So you have earth. You have the ability to cognate. You have the ability to reason. You have the ability to learn. You're a smart individual. You're analytical. So you have air. You get emotionally attached to those things that you want. And also your emotions around your lived experience thus far motivates what it is that you want to create next. It informs and it sustains the want, the desire. So you have water. The only question is, do you have the fire? Is the want bad enough? Is the water boiling? Are the emotions intense enough to cause fires? Once you have little fires everywhere, you're unstoppable. That's the kind of fire firefighters hate to put out, right? If there's one ignition point, that fire is easy to put out. But once you have little fires everywhere, it's game over. Each of them consumes on its own and behaves on its own and flares up on its own. And that's much harder to predict and contain. So if you have the passion, hence the fire, and the emotions and the why of why you want to do this, and the practicality and the resources, if you have everything you need to create, the question is, why wouldn't you?
What is it that limits you? Why do you limit yourself so much? So, we now have our sun completed with all its rays emanating outwards. The only thing left to do is bring this thing to life and give it a little bit of frequency in terms of color. Give me one second. I forgot to grab my markers before we started, so I have to go grab them. Okay, so I am going to, because this is, like I said, the sun for me, I am going to use somewhat of a monochromatic palette, right? So I'm going to be using a lot of reds and oranges, and actually I'm not going to use any red, yellows, oranges, and kind of give it the look of the sun that we've been talking about. Okay. So as always with neurographic art, we are going to color more than one section in the same color. And we are not going to respect boundaries. As you can see, I'm creating boundaries, but I'm not respecting any of the boundaries of the lines that I've previously created. This color is a lot darker than I thought it would be, but that's okay. This is the color I should have started with, but ooh, you're nice and orange. Okay. once you have colored your composition, you're all ready to go. With a couple of hours left before the moon turns new, you have set your intention, you're ready to shine. And it's all there for everyone to see, including yourself. Right? If you are not doing this live with me and you're going to watch the replay, the best time to do this is within the next 72 hours before the moon begins to get a little bit of light. Okay? We plant seeds in the dark. Conception always happens in the dark, and it slowly creates light. So, with that said, thank you for sticking around with me. Thank you for doing this with me. I hope you enjoyed this. This was our first little taste of what programming looks like. We will be doing more of these in the future. If you want to do more of a programming-based algorithm or work with me, there are a couple of courses coming up, Journey to Manifestation and Journey to Understanding. And this is the last time these two will be in person. We're going to switch to a at your own pace pre-recorded format afterwards. So if you want information on any of those, you are more than welcome, Roxana Jan. So if all the information is on my website, you can sign up if you want. Until February 14th, there is a early bird code for the Journey to Manifestation, which starts on March the 2nd, and that's early bird, so that's easy to remember. But other than that, I wish you a lovely, lovely weekend. I hope you enjoyed this programming process. Be gentle with yourself. Be kind to yourself in the next little while. Make sure you are hydrating a lot. And if you do end up having some vivid dreams in the next couple of days, don't get alarmed. It's very, very normal. You just did a lot of work with your brain. Okay. As always, if you have any questions, leave them in the comments, email me, find me on social media, come say hi, however you like. I'm always here for you. But with that, I wish you a beautiful, expansive new moon in Aquarius, and I will see you again next week for another regular release session. Have a lovely day, everybody.